Hey guys, welcome back to the couch. Welcome back to Seattle. You found a Loopin' About podcast, and this is about my adventures in knitting and sewing. I'm Alicia, also known as AK47 on Ravelry, and lupinehook on Instagram. So let's get into it. I think I've kind of gotten into a little bit of a lull with my knitting. So this one might not have as much knitting content as I usually have, but commuting out to my parents' house where the sewing machine is, get a visit in with the parents, and then spend, every waking moment on the machine when I have the chance. And it's been really busy the last 2 weeks. I've gone out 3 times and gotten all 10 of my stars for my swap done. And I started receiving stars from my group members, and aren't they awesome? And they've come in all kinds of different sizes. This one's the newest one, and it came this weekend. This was the first one from Arizona that came in. This one came in from New Hampshire. This one is from a new local friend here in Washington. Can you tell? There's some greens and blues in there. Very Washington tones. I love it. And this one came from California. It's got a cat print in the middle and a bunch of warm browns. Really like that one. So my mailbox has been very happy lately. Super happy. And my mailbox needs to send out some stuff pretty soon. And I think my big motivator this week to record was to show you what I've made for my partners. It has been a busy week, productive, and I'm very happy with what's turned out from that sewing machine. But I've also done some knitting with some friends this last couple weeks. Jessica and I have been going out weekly to go do some knitting together. And a lot of it has revolved around a local store out here. The Nifty Knitter has changed locations. They stayed in the same address and just moved a few houses over, right? So they're in the Gilman Village. So they went from one Gilman Village location to another, a bigger space. It used to be a yoga studio, and now it's a yarn shop. It feels like they tripled in size. But they didn't get a bigger table for their Friday night knit-alongs. So I feel like we still have the same size limitations for the knit-along evening on Fridays, but the space is much grander. And you don't have to move around so much, right? Like, you kind of got cornered in the old space that I hope I don't need to use the bathroom or go shopping once I sit down. I'm here for a few hours. But yeah, it's a beautiful space. They have an espresso machine that they haven't gotten running yet, but that's going to be super cozy and it's going to smell delicious in there all the time once that machine is up and running. Big and more open displays for their yarn, and they got really creative with some of their display ideas. So if you get a chance and you're around the Northwest and you want to go see the cutest little store, it's called the Nifty Knitter, and it's in Issaquah, Washington. This is a picture of their old storefront, but yeah, Nifty Knitter. It's in Gilman Village. They're just a few doors down from their old location, and they're playing this bingo for their grand opening. And so tomorrow I'm meeting Jessica one more time, and we're going in for the early bird square, the Tuesday fun square, the soft and squishy, because I'm going to buy a skein of yarn and then put it on Ravelry, so I'll also get the stash it. So I'll get the soft and squishy and the stash it, the early bird and the Tuesday. And I think you'll also get this all day. So on Tuesday, I'm going to get these 5 stars. And then for every tic-tac-toe row you get, which in this case I'll get top row, middle row, both diagonals, you'll get 5 stars in their star point system. So for every $10 or maybe every $5 you spend at the Nifty Knitter, you get stars, and as you accrue more stars, you get some amount coupon after so many stars. And I think it's every 10 stars you get $10 off or something to that effect. But it's their reward system. Usually they track it electronically, but it's kind of fun having this little bingo card for now for this grand opening. This whole month you could go in and participate in their grand opening events. It was super fun. It's a cute location. There's Adirondack rocking chairs outside. We spent, I want to say, Jessica and I just sat there for an hour, hour and a half, just chatted it up and knit. I had a new project in my hand, so we just got to be away from a crowd, but in a tiny little porch setting. We just knit in front of a knit store. It was in front of a yarn store, and it was super refreshing. Now, they do have a display of wind chimes outside. So if you're a little delicate to wind chime noises, and there's probably 20 of them on this display. We got drowned out a couple times due to the music. No complaints, just an observation. And they're beautiful, beautiful constructs made by a local artist, sold at the yarn store. But yeah, it's just been really great just to get together, do some knitting. Last week, Friday, we attended Camp Tolt. Yeah, we attended Camp Tolt. That's hosted by Tolt Yarn and Wool, and that's out in Carnation. So that's about 15 minutes from Nifty Knitter. There's another yarn store, and that's over in Carnation. It's a beautiful yarn store. I went over there. Initially, we had the plan, hey, have you seen this sweater that I'm kind of interested in? And her and I both kind of have the same build. Broad-shouldered, kind of tall. She's bigger in the chest than I am, so she's going to go for a sweater bigger than mine. But she was telling me about this sweater that she had seen at Tolt, and I knew exactly which one it was. It has a yoke, and it has trees throughout the entire yoke. And I've been admiring it for a while. But remember last year when I told you I went through that purge in my queue to take out everything yoked because I didn't want to deal with the consequence of the fit for people with broad shoulders. So I took everything that had a yoke in it out of my queue. Just deleted all of it. Just don't even look at it. It's not your, it's your style, but it's not going to fit you proper the first go. And last year I was not at this spot where I wanted to be modifying things heavily to make the fit, right? You can make these fit, but you're going to have to spend some time with them. So she said, hey, but it is a sample. Why don't we go try it on? And I said, that's a great idea, because why say no to it if I have the opportunity to try it on and see if it is true, like that sweater is not going to fit me. So we go in. I knew exactly where it was in the store. I go marching directly to where I remember seeing it, and it's not there. And Jessica looks at me, and she says, oh, well, maybe they moved it. It's in a different part of the store. Maybe they put it with Lopi because it was a Lopi sample. We're looking everywhere. Don't see it. Jessica's kind of deflated. Look at her. I was like, well, they probably have it somewhere. I'll just go ask somebody to bring it out if it's still in the store. If they have it, they have it. If they don't, they don't, right? But if they have it and I didn't ask for it, then I'm still going to wonder if that's a sweater that would fit me and if I would enjoy knitting it, right? Because it's beautiful. It's 3 colors. The one in the store went from, I want to say, a pale gray, like right on the cusp of cream, and then a light gray, and then a charcoal or dark charcoal color finished. Like the main color is this dark charcoal. I think in the sample picture for the pattern, it's greens. Might start with a cream and then a light green and a dark green. It's really pretty. Go check it out. I'm sure I've put it up here. I can't pronounce it, so that's probably why I forgot to mention what it's called. Anyway, went up to one of the workers at Tolt and I asked her, hey, you had a sample that had trees in the yoke, a beautiful sweater. Do you guys happen to have it? It's just not on display anymore. And she said, yeah, we do. I'll go get it. Sweet. So tried it on. It wasn't bunching in the shoulders. The size was 35 and a half, and my chest size is 35. If I didn't have the opportunity to try the sweater on, I was just going to go up a size, thinking, well, if I made a size bigger, well, the arm hole and arm fit is going to be bigger and different, right? And it'll just be a comfy sweater. And it'll just be one of those, it's cozying up to the fire, it's really cold, I'll wear it, my around the house sweater that I had to make bigger because the fit of a yoked sweater, right? No, it was size 35, which is, or 35 and a half, which is, my bust is 35. So I won't even have to change to go up a sweater size to fit my arms. So perfect fit for my size, what I would intend and want to make for myself. Yeah. So I found out that fit, and then they Tolt closes at 5, and their event starts at 6. It's a good hour. So we went and got some food, and then we went out to Tolt McDonald Park. You walk over a suspension bridge, and you walk a little ways down the trail, and there's a covered picnic table area and 2 campfires, and then all these amphitheater style seats. In the end, there must have been 80 knitters that showed up for this event. Every time we looked around, we either saw somebody from Serial Knitters, which is in Kirkland, or we saw somebody from the Nifty Knitter that we knit with every Friday, or there's another group that I was invited to, and I've only been able to make it once. It was on a Thursday night. We sat with them. Like, everywhere we looked around, there was a familiar face. Now, there was enough light until probably 8:30 to do knitting until you definitely needed to have some ambient light, with whether it was headlamps, which a lot of people had, or little lanterns that they brought. Campfires were going, s'mores were being made. It was super fun. We packed up around 8:30 to get me to a park and ride, and so I could catch a bus and then the light rail home. And get home at a decent time. I think I made it home by 10. So we were there for about 2.5 hours and just had really good fun. I won a bag from this year's logo, and then somebody next to me didn't have bags, so I just let her use it. And she's like, I'll return it to you the next time I see you. I said, sure, if you do, if you don't, that's cool, enjoy the bag. They have logo bags, and I brought mine from last time, because I think it's been years since I went to Camp Tolt. But this was the year I went. This was the logo. And I just saw someone recently who embellished one of these with embroidery. So clever. She put the shoelaces in for the boots, and the yarn ball was done up so it looked like a yarn ball. And I think the strapping within the book bag or the camp bag was done also. It was really cute. And I'm sure if you go to the hashtag for Camp Tolt, you'll see which one I'm talking about. But yeah, I took some knitting with me. I have cast on a new thing since the last time I podcasted. It has been a while. I apologize for that. It's been a short bit. But I cast on Wildfire Blaze, and that's by Atlas Knits. Can you see the flames? Doesn't that look awesome? Now this is going to block out and it's going to be even more amazing, but for right now, it definitely harkens to flames and fire. Isn't that pretty? This is going to be a crescent-shaped shawl. I haven't even gotten to 25% yet, and in her patterns, she tells you where the 25% mark is, the 50%, 75, and your 100 mark, right? So at any time, you could, if you have weighed your yarn before you started, you could see if you are going to have enough yarn throughout the entire thing. How clever is that? Love it. I am using Madeline Tosh Pashmina, and that's the tart colorway. So it's going to be requiring 2 skeins of yarn. So that's tart. It's red, and then it kind of looks like an overdye of black. So it makes a beautiful colorway. And Pashmina has cashmere in it. I'm thinking it's an MCN. Probably correcting myself if it isn't. But it's a sport base. It's sport weight base, and it just knits up beautiful. I'm using Chow Goose. Now this isn't my favorite kind of cord. It's quite stiff. Don't enjoy knitting with it. It happened to be a 7 that was handy. And I know that my gauge is different on these metal tips than they are with my wooden Haya interchangeables. So yeah, I could have switched out when I got home after the first time I sat with it. But I knew that my gauge was going to be different, so I just said, you know, I'm just going to power through it. It's not my most delightful knit because of the needles, but the group that I'm knitting with, which is Atlas Knits, her podcast is called Pearl Scouts, and oh my goodness, just the most clever naming. She is the designer of shawls and a little mug koozie. What else does she have? She doesn't have sweaters yet, but she's breaking into sweaters. And a cowl. So cowls and shawls are her thing right now. There's some color work. There's lace work, cable work. If you want to test your skills and jump into some technical knitting, this is the place to do it. She is super knowledgeable, and her aesthetic is just gorgeous. So yeah, this one's going to be cables, and then there's going to be a panel of different cables, and I think some lace. There might be some yarn overs in the finishing bit of this shawl. So check out Atlas Knits. She's doing a knit along all summer. You can do any of her shawls, or you can use any of the yarn that were her yarn sponsors for her shawls in the past. So I think Malabrigo is one of them. Don't know the other ones because I'm not prepared. But I'm doing Wildfire Blaze, and I am loving it. It's super simple. It's an every once in a while cable, and it's super, super fun. Increases are on both the knit side and the purl side, and that's probably what I should tell you. I did do a modification already. Mostly because my brain wasn't... I started this shawl on a bus. I had moments of stitches falling out and losing stitch markers. Wasn't the best location to start a shawl. I know. Shame on me. Didn't bring any other thing to work on. And then I decided to take it to a knit night. The second time I worked on it. That sounds not so smart either, does it? And then the third time I took it to Toltz, Camp Toltz, and decided, yeah, I'll do some group knitting with it. So I was never going to be in a good space to keep track of purling, make purls in 2 directions. I know this about me. I knew this about me already. I have a hard time already doing make one lefts and make one rights. Every time I come to one, I have to remember which one I'm doing and why. Right? And if I can't even keep those 2 just yeah, I wasn't going to be able to do it on the knit side and the purl side. So I changed the purl increases to purl front back, which is really purl back front, right? So my increases for the middle guy, and there should be one there, is not what they intended. So there's a bit of a gap in there. But I did it every time I did it, so it's intentional, right? So it shouldn't look terrible. It should look intended when my shawl is finished. But it would look a lot neater if I followed the pattern and did make one lefts and make one rights on the purl side. I did keep them on the knit side because those I could keep track of, but I didn't do it on the purl side. So those were my mods. I worked on my sweater this whole last 2 weeks, and I am knit complete. So excited. Watch out, because that means there's a lot of ends in here that aren't tucked in, because I still have some sewing to do. But the last you saw, I had a sleeve. Okay, I'm not knit complete apparently. I went to bed last night and I didn't want to do the bind off. Like, it was too much. It was too late. So I haven't bound off those stitches, but they're done. I just have to do the bind off row. Such a liar to you guys, and then I catch myself in my lie. And then, okay, so I had this sleeve and this front done. Well, I finished the back panel, yep, scoops, and the second sleeve. So I need to sew those guys together. Some of the stitches from the sleeve, and then that edge of the scoop. I need to sew together on both sides, and then both sides of the back as well. And then I'll be done. Turtleneck, poncho style. So this is the Pike Stout poncho. Enjoyable pattern once you get past the erratas, and those erratas are good once you get into the 3rd, 4th, and 5th chart. And then you're sailing. I did some mods. First mod was I added 2 more inches to the body of mine. After all the increases are done, I added 2 more inches of just straight knitting, keeping with the cable pattern. I increased 3 inches on each sleeve so that it would fit my arms. I might have made some extra decreases in the arms. I think 2 extra decreases. 2 extra decrease lines in the arms. Because I have quite dainty wrists, quite dainty forearms too. So I figured if I was going to play yarn chicken, I might as well just eliminate some extra stitches before that becomes a problem. Well, I'll have you know I made it. I have about 50 grams left over, so I made this sweater with 5.5 skeins of Cascade 220, and this colorway is 4800. It's a charcoal color. It's pretty dark. That looks really dark. It's got beautiful cable panel. I love how it finishes in, I love how it finishes in these scoops in the front and the back. And I think if I make a poncho sweater again, I'm going to use that same idea that I found in this pattern, because I really don't like how that Fair Isle swancho, is it called a swancho? Turned out. I think I would break at the sleeves, finish off the same way as this one. Just it. Yeah, it looks more intentionally tailored this way. So hopefully I will have inserted a picture of that finished thing, because I'm thinking I'm going to finish this before I even edit this video. So hopefully you will see an FO, and maybe I'll have to insert it earlier. We'll see. But that is all of the knitting. Just 2 things I've been working on. Well, I have been working on my sock, but that's kind of secret knitting right now. I'm trying to follow my pattern that I'm writing so that I'm kind of testing it as I'm writing it. There's some other happy mail that came to me this week, and that was from Robbie, who participated in our sock blank sock along, and she sent me her scrap, and I'm really excited about it. Look at those colors. So of course my favorite colors, which are blue and purple and green, are in there. And then there's a touch of a reddish color in this bright green area. So I'm seriously excited about that. So thank you, Robbie, for sending me your scraps. I'm very excited. I'm probably going to be using a color from within this as coordinating toes and cuffs and maybe heels, and then using this for the main body of the sock. So I'm super excited. And I'm thinking shorties. I think I could get a pair of shorties out of this. Oh, and she showed me which end that I'm supposed to be pulling from. So thank you so much. You thought of everything. I am super excited. Thank you for your generosity in my direction. I am very intrigued by these sock blanks. At first, and I think everyone reacts the same, right? You look at it, you're just like, why would I want baby blocks knit into my whatever I'm gonna knit? So the first one I saw had baby blocks on it, right? That were a stencil. Yeah, I couldn't think outside of that box of not wanting to see that pattern show up on whatever I was gonna knit. I'm wiser now. It's been 4 years later, and I could have gotten those sock blanks for super cheap when I saw them. But my brain was just not seeing it. But now I'm very intrigued by sock blanks. They're so awesome. And I saw your socks and they look fantastic. And I wonder if, like you said, I wonder if our tension is going to be the same, that our socks are going to look a little similar. She even wrapped it in purple. Oh, I love you guys. Thank you so much. Just being generous amongst each other. I can't tell you how excited I am by these swaps. So I haven't found a lot of knitting swaps, so I've kind of jumped over to sewing because they do a lot of swaps. I can do a swap every month, and so far that's what's going to happen. So I had this make as my August make. Next month it'll be a bag and a little. I don't know what the little's going to be yet, but a bag and a little for a partner, and that'll be my September make. So now I'm looking for October. So this is my first one I did. You guys have you seen it? No, I'm not sure you have. Hasn't been that long. I got busy. All right, so I went to my group. So we made a side group of chatter on Instagram for the group of ladies that I was swapping with, and I showed them Sasquatch, a little pattern, like a little girl that made up a pattern, like a garment pattern, fabric, and a pineapple fabric. And I said, so what do you think, guys? Because you guys probably don't all want Sasquatch. Pretty much everybody said they wanted Sasquatch. So I got to put a wonky log cabin in the center of a lot of these. I got really addicted. That's the part I like, is the foundation paper piecing. I do not enjoy quilt piecing. I hope it gets better as I get more seasoned in sewing, but I don't really enjoy it. But I got to put in some raindrops. Let's see if I can hold this. I got to put in some raindrops and some aloha print, some more aloha print. Actually, a lot of aloha print, and then some raindrops. And then this is a batik that I just found. And then I used Washington fabric in the framing of the Sasquatch. And we've got Rainier and the Ferris wheel that's on the waterfront and the ferry at the bottom. She was super excited about the ferry. And then in this written print, it says Mount St. Helens. And this written print has Mount Rainier and some other stuff you can't read. This one has the start of the Olympic National Park. So this is going to a local Washingtonian, so I think she'll really appreciate that one. This next one is going to one of my partners that really enjoys red, and she voted for Sasquatch. So I made sure they all had a star pattern and this You Make Me Happy block in every single one I made. And then scraps of all the others. Had a lot of fun with this. There's a surfboard in here. So this guy, surfboard, Campbell's label. This one is pin cushions. Do you see them now? And then that's little tiki face, but you can't really see him because he got cut off. And she likes red and yellow. So I put in some yellow and I put in some red highlights in that one. Next one, she liked pinks and brights. Well, it turns out I don't have a lot of brights. So I went dumpster diving. I went into the scrap bin at Pacific Fabrics and found a bunch of bright prints that I could incorporate with this. So from the start, and maybe, did I show you? If I showed you before, then you've seen the center, but I don't think so. Last week I had 1 star and 3 centers done. 1 full star and 3 centers done. And I was still stressed that it wasn't done. So I went back a couple days later and I did all of them in 2 days. Anyway, so I picked up this bright fabric. This one has oranges in it. I had this guy and I had this parrot. And I thought that parrot was fun. But yeah, my brights, there weren't many. So I could do the square, but I didn't have enough points to finish them with brights. So I picked up that fabric, that one, and that one. And that one, so that I could finish that block. But do you see that it calls for patterning in her little block? Isn't that great? Everybody wanted Sasquatch. It's funny. So this person liked animals. Well, it turns out I only have a lot of aloha print, so the only animal I had was Honu, so this one has turtles in it. So I got a little turtle in the binary star and then a big turtle in the big star. Had a lot of fun with this one. I think she requested no brown, if I recall. So I made sure not to put any brown in there. Yeah, I had a lot of fun with that guy. One of my partners is doing a black background instead of a white background. So this is what I came up with, and she wanted Sasquatch. So the center's a little dark, but it's because Sasquatch it has a black background. And I got the girl pattern in the bottom. I picked up this guy, Tula Pink. She has some wild fabrics. And I saw this fabric on the end of bolt sale at the fabric store. I was like, ooh, cool, that looks intriguing. Had no idea who I was buying. So I got a really good price on this guy, and I have a lot of it. And I think I would want something out of it, like a skirt or something. Yeah, I don't wear skirts. I don't know why I want one. Never wear it, but it'll be pretty. So we'll see if anything comes of that. You might recognize this fabric, or at least Kim will. That's in the little bag that I made for Kim during our swap at ZK 2018. Yeah, and then I put Washington fabric in there, so the 42nd state. That's part of Walla Walla and Washington. That's part of the word Washington. And that one's part of the San Juans. I know it. Nobody else will probably recognize it. But at least I got the 42nd state in there. And that was the black block. Next block. I don't think she had any desires, and she had... So I just picked any kind of colors, and I put it in there. But she did want a Sasquatch on hers. And there's a turtle in there, too. I love that green fabric in the top points. I was starting to get the hang of it. I was stressing myself out for a very long time because I thought all the blocks had to be 12.5 inches. And then this block came in, and I was like, well, that's not 12.5 inches. So I went back and I read through the whole email another time. And I said, where did I come up with 12.5-inch blocks? So then I started getting creative, and I could do whatever size, and I wasn't stressing about the 1/4-inch allowance that was making all my blocks small, because the foot on my sewing machine is not a 1/4 inch to the outside edge of the foot. So I didn't learn until I did that little bitty star that I showed you last time, and it was a 1/2 inch shorter than it was supposed to be in the dimensions I intended. So anyway, this person loved orange and lime. When you think lime, is that color the color of the outside of the lime, or is it a bright green? I didn't know the answer to that one. So this is what I came up with. I decided to get a couple greens in the green spots so that lime had to be one of them. Maybe you can define what lime is to me in the comments below. That one threw me for a loop. And I've asked other people too. And they're like, oh. Now that you ask that, I don't know what lime is. This one was a super fun one. I started with the fabric that I got my Union Jack from. And it has all these locations within the rest of the print, right? So this says the Big Apple, and that's the start of New York. And that one says Explore, but the EX got cut off. Or the E did. So yeah, so I took the Big Apple, and I took colors from that and drew out the rest of it. It's a smaller block, but I really like it. And I started to really like having this narrow block in the middle, the narrow T where the points end up. It was super fun. So yeah, he's a bit smaller than the rest of them. But I think I had the most fun with him. One person requested pineapple. Now the pineapple was a black pineapple on a white background. So then I wasn't sure what to do with the points. So then I decided I'm going to stick with one fabric, and I'm going to make all the points of that one fabric. And then while I was building it, I realized I want more orange. So then I made 1 point oranges. So that was my pineapple. I tried to cut it so the whole pineapple would be in it, and then you only got part of the top and then the full body, and it didn't look as good as if I fussy cut it this way, where you got most of the top. And the top was just really pretty to look at. So, and then the final one was another person who liked red. And this is actually going to the person who sent me a binary star. This one. And because she did so much work on making that binary star, I made a scrappy square up here mimicking the exact same pattern I used for the middle guy, but I started with a smaller piece of fabric. So when I use the Sasquatch, as you can see, he's a lot bigger than the center square of this. This is like a 1-inch block. And he's more of a 3.5 inch by 2 inch. So when I put him on the wonky log cabin template, he covered up 1, 2, 3, and 4 for most of them. What I wasn't realizing from the start is that the blocks that you're not using because he's covering them up and he's framing bigger than what you intended, you have to extend those seam lines to the next one in line. So I had some that the first seam line was going all the way down to block 8, or the seam between for block number 8. So I made a couple centers that I couldn't use because after I finished the entire wonky block, I realized, oh, there's a gap, and like I could put my finger through like the bottom section right here from his hand down wasn't closed, right? Because I was just sewing what the pattern told me to do and not thinking that I started with a bigger piece. I need to make that seam touch where the next one will run over it, right? So that you would have a sealed frame around your Sasquatch. So I do have some extra centers that I can do for myself and then maybe hand sew them closed or not care that they're not closed. I haven't decided. It's a little teeny pocket to the inside of your quilt. Yeah, so I decided that that wouldn't be good for my partners. So I had to scrap a few centers. But I'm super happy with that. It turned out I didn't have this square anyway. So when I got to that point where I've gone to the fabric store 3 times now just to get background fabric, and I clearly don't understand how much background fabric was necessary. I looked at the scraps I had, and I thought, oh hey, I bet they're thick enough to do the sides of the wonky log cabin. And they were. And I even got a little bit of You Make Me Happy in there too. So it was a little difficult to not get the same things touching. So that chevron occurs twice. Had to make sure he was in opposite locations. That's a free pattern. It's called the Wonky Log Cabin, and it's by 3 3/4 is her blog location, and 3 3/4 is her Instagram, and that's with the number 3 in there twice. 3. She has a great little tutorial videos for a lot of things. She's doing a mini quilt along right now that she's providing tutorials for the squares, and I think you'll get 9 of them in total, and she's up to number, I think she has 4 out right now. The 5th one might come out between me recording this and her posting. So yeah, you might want to check her out. She has one that's a hashtag, and I really want to use it, and I really wanted to use it in this quilt, but I wasn't up, my piecing wasn't up to par. But what I wanted to do, my sewing machine can do words, like embroidery on it. It's tiny. So I feel like on the bar of the hashtag square that she makes, I feel like I could have spelled out Wonky Stars 2018. So maybe when I do this for the 4th quarter, which I'm thinking I'm going to do the 4th quarter, I think I'm going to incorporate that hashtag and then write out on one of the bars of the hashtag what the swap was. I will ask my partners and see if they want that, but that is my idea. I got all these home like last week. I finished on Tuesday, I think. I got them home and I turned them over and all the seams looked awful. Okay, not all of them, but a lot of them needed to be ironed down pretty. So I went out again for my grandmother's birthday and I took these along and oh my goodness, they got so much love and adoration from my family. It was so nice. But I took them all back out there to get re-ironed to make sure that nothing looked terrible, because I couldn't send them in the state that they were in. But now they are ready for the mail. So we should be seeing those out in the wild pretty soon. Speaking of swaps, we have Knitmas coming up, and the planning stages are going to be October. So in the next month and a half, see if you want to recruit any of your friends that saw us doing this last year and thought, ooh, I got to keep an eye out. Let them know it's coming October 1st through probably the 25th. There will be signups. In the signups, there's going to be a list of questions. And please, because there's people in this swap that are like me, that like distinct directions just to make them feel calm and collected while they're making for you, and kind of get a good feel that you're going to like what they're making, because we're spending a lot of time in our craft making for somebody who adores this craft too, right? So Knitmas is a knit for knit swap between last year was Secret Santa, and I wanted to ask, that's probably going to be one of the questions in the questionnaire starting in October, of whether you want to do secret swap or do you want it open communication with your partner. Since we've already done it one way, I figure this is a good opportunity to tell me if you liked the way it turned out, or if you would like more communication with your partner. Now, throughout the making, which is from November 1st to mid-January, we have open dialogue in a thread, and sometimes you kind of forgot to ask something, or maybe the questions didn't cover everything, and you want to say, hey guys, I have these color combinations or these color combinations. If you were my partner, which one would you pick? Right? So that thread stays open, and I would love for you guys to keep on that thread so that if your partner, your mystery partner, if you will, has a question, that it gets answered by everybody in the group. So yes, October will be planning and signups, and then November 1st is when we all cast on. Now, I give a huge window because it's Christmas time, right? Maybe you have a lot of Christmas knitting and you can't even touch this until your Christmas knitting is done. That's okay. We run through December and most of January. If you can get your package sent out within 2 days, you could knit up until January 28th or 29th, right? So we try to have the due date at the beginning of February. I'm not saying February 1st, drop dead date, but mailing them out within that first week of February, so you'll have the rest of December and all of January to make for your person if you only need a month. Last time we did Knit Miss, it was on the basis of 2 skeins. Any weight, but 2 skeins. Either you were using 2 colors in a color work thing, or you're using 2 full skeins to make a bigger shawl or a poncho. We saw a poncho last year. Or the stripe study was a huge, huge shawl, right? So, or you make something with 1 skein and you gift a beautiful skein to your partner. So, but in the end, you used a total of 2 skeins for your partner. People were beautiful and generous to each other last year. There were hats, there were gloves, there were mitts, there were shawls, poncho, cowl. I got a cowl, and it was beautiful, and it was brioche. Oh my goodness. I was spoiled. And a lot of you guys had the same sentiment, that you were also spoiled in this swap. So know that it's coming. I'm definitely participating because I can't get enough swaps right now. And right now my outlet is sewing. So thank you for joining me on my adventures past 2 weeks. Get out into your community and knit with your friends. Find new friends. Because you know what? The most beautiful people craft. So I want to thank you guys for joining me. Thank you for hanging out. Thank you for crafting with me, whether it's on Discord or text or Ravelry or Instagram. Our community is growing in all kinds of social media. So I will see you guys on the boards. And until we knit again, bye.